Hi there, my name is Abu and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, I will show you how to use CSS in React to create a responsive navigation menu. As you can see here, when the device is big, you have the whole menu, we have a logo and the pages and then a Hire Me button on the right. As the device gets smaller and smaller, the pages break off into a drop-down menu, as you can see. And when the device gets even smaller, the button should also drop into the drop-down menu. So this is very responsive, and whichever the size of the device, this will have a good experience for the user when they are using your application. So let's jump into the text editor and get started. Onto my text editor, I have a boilerplate React I just installed using npx create react app. So you can do the same. And I will just run my development server npm start. While the development server is running, I can clean up this application. I don't need any of this. I will just delete, and I will delete also this. I don't need that. So this is our starting point of the application in this app.js. In my source folder, I have an assets folder, and this has my logo, the one I'm going to use. You can use a logo of your choice. And in the source folder, I'll create another folder and I'll call it components. So in the components folder, I'll create a file, and by convention, all components, they have capital letters. So navbar component.js. And also in the same component folder, I will create a component.css for the design of the navigation menu. In the navigation component, RAFCE, I have this extension that you can create this initial boilerplate code for any component that you have. And I will save this component. And back to my app.js, I need to import this component in my app.js. So import nav component from components and nav component.js, and I will import it here. So nav component and self-closing tag. So I'll save this, and I think I'm gonna have this as a fragment, so I'll just remove the div. You can also say react.fragment, or you can also just leave it blank, and this also means this is a fragment. So I'll just leave it like that. So using a fragment means that I don't want to add any styles from here. For example, if I say the div, I want to add all my styles in the nav component. So that's why I'm going to use this as a fragment. So I'll save this here. And when I come to my application, I should see an empty boilerplate React component, which is the nav component. Back to the navigation component, I'm going to start designing my navigation from here. So we have two sections of this navigation component. One section has the logo and the pages, and the other part has the Hire Me button. So the first thing we're going to do is have one div that is going to contain all of the navigation elements. So I'll give it a class name, and this is container. And let me just remove this for now. We don't need it. So I have a container. And in this container, I have another div that is going to hold the logo and the pages, which are just the links to the whole navigation menu. So this, I'll just call it the links, give it a class name of links. So one of the links is going to be the logo. So down here, I'll give it a class name. So in case you're not understanding what I'm doing, when I put a dot, it means that this is the class that I'm giving this specific div. So dot links, and this is the logo. And as you can see, it automatically gives it a div, and its a class name is links logo. So this is where I'm just going to import my logo. So as you must have guessed, this is just img with a source. So my logo, I have to import it first up here. So import logo from, so out of this folder, and I want to go to the assets folder and logo.png. So I'll just import logo down here and put it in curly braces. So logo, and I'm gonna save this. So this is the links logo class, and out of the links logo class is where I will have my pages, now the links to the pages. So I'll just call this dot links wrapper, and this is where I'm going to have all of my pages. So the first page, I'm just going to put them in paragraphs, and I have this in an anchor tag, and this is just going to go home. I'm just going to call this home. So this is the home page, and without wasting time, I'll just copy this a couple of times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on the next one, I need to have two cursors. I can click at the end, and I hold down Alt, and I click at the end also of the home. So I have two cursors, and I can name them simultaneously. So this is going to be about, and then the next one again, I'll click and then hold Alt, and then have two cursors. So this is going to be contact, and maybe services, and maybe portfolio. So these are my navigation links. When I save this, let's see how our application looks like. Yes, I know it still doesn't look very nice and very neat. Everything is all over the place, which is perfectly fine. We're going to organize all of this in CSS. But for now, let's just try to put more into our navigation menu. So we will get out of the links, and then we're going to create another div here for the button. So dot nav button, that's the class name. And then we're just going to bring in a simple button with the name hire me, and we're going to give it a type here, and this is just going to be type button. So save this. How does it look? I'm sure it's very ugly. Even the hire me button is really ugly right now. So let's go in and start designing one thing at a time. Onto components.css, or maybe I'll just rename this to nav.css. So click on this, and I press F12, and I rename this to navbar.css. That's a much better name than component.css. So in navbar.css, we're going to start with the first class, that is the container. So I can just copy this and come and say dot container. And the first thing I want to do is set a display. So this display, I'll set it to flex. So if you don't know anything about Flexbox and how it works, you can follow the link up here or check on the description of this video. I'll leave a link to my Flexbox tutorial. So set the display to flex, and I want to justify this content, and I'll give it space between. And the next thing I want to do is align these items. So I want to align these items in the center and give it a little bit of padding. And I'll just give this 2 rems top and bottom, and then 6 rem left and right. So I'm gonna save this, and let's go back and see how our application looks like. So there's still nothing here because the image is really big, this logo, but we're gonna fix that. Back to the CSS. So the next thing I want to do is target the links. This div here of the links, I'll just copy this, and I want to target dot. Remember, every class you put a dot before if you want to target that specific class. So this, I'm gonna give it flex of 1, so it should cover 50% of the parent, which is the container. And I also want to display flex inside this links class. And I want to justify content. This I want to flex start because I want them to start from the left of the screen. And I'll also just align these items, and I'll align the items center. So when I save this, we should see something up happening, but there's still nothing happening here. And what is going on? Okay, I did not import this navbar CSS file into the navbar component. So on the top, I want to import in the same folder navbar.css. When I save this, there you go. Now I have a bit of spacing from the left and right, and I have this navigation pages, and I have the button all on the same line because the display is flex. Back to navbar.css, I want to give the logo a small padding to the left, or rather a small margin to the right. So when I target this links logo, all I'm going to say is margin right, and I'll give it like 2 rems so that I have a separation between the logo and the pages. So the next thing I want to do is work on the image. Now the logo itself, links logo, and I want to target img, that's the image tag. And this, I'll just give it a width of about 100 pixels and a height of about 40 pixels. Let's see how it looks like. So save this, and I should see something starting to appear now. Now I can clearly see how the arrangement is happening now. As you can see, the Hire Me button is all the way to the right of the screen, and the logo and the classes are all the way to the left of the screen. And this is the behavior that we want. So the next thing we want to do is to arrange these pages. For now, as you can see, they are stacked in a column, but I want them to appear in a row. Back to the CSS, we have the links wrapper class that is going to control the behavior of all the pages. Links wrapper, I'll just copy this and back to the design in CSS and dot links wrapper. And what do I want to do here? First thing, I also want to set this display to flex. And in this links wrapper, I want to set the flex direction. And in this case, they're in a column. So I want to set them to be in a row. And when I save this, I should see them in a row. And as you can see, this is now starting to appear perfect the way we want it to. And now we have all the pages in a row. Back to the design. I want to give it a margin. So margin, top and bottom, I'm going to give it auto, but then left and right, I'm going to give it 0 pixels. And as you can see, it almost stays the same. And the next thing I want to do is design the button container. So when I move down, I have the nav button here. So I'm just going to copy this and then I'm going to dot and paste it there. So this button, I'm also going to set the display to flex, and I'm going to justify the content flex end. So I'm going to push it all the way to the right of the screen, and I'll just align items center. So save this, and I should see almost the same appearance. Very nice. And the next thing I want to do now is start designing all the pages. As you can see, they are too close to each other. It doesn't have any margin between them. Even the font looks very bad. We don't want this underlining to appear. So all of this, I want to start designing that. On the next line, I want to target. What are we targeting here? So the links wrapper, that's what we are targeting. But then in the links wrapper, to the start, I forgot the dot, remember? And in the links wrapper, I want to access the paragraph tag. And in the paragraph tag, I want to access the anchor tag. And in that, I also want to access the nav button. So dot nav button. But then I also want to access the paragraph tag in the nav button. And with this, we can start designing this class. Later, we're going to have another menu down here. So we might as well just add this class. So nav menu wrapper. You're going to see what I mean by this. But for now, let's just add it. And down here, first thing we want to do is set the color of this text. So color, and I have colors already. You can pick any color that you want. So my color is 333 for my text. And I'll give it a font weight, maybe 500, a little bit bold. And then I also want to give it a size. So font size, and this I can give it about 18 pixels, which is good with me. You can give it any size that you're comfortable with. And I want to give it a line height of about 25 pixels. This is just the designs. You can make these designs according to your wildest fantasies. So text transform, I want to give this capitalize, and margins, just a small margin, and 0 top and bottom, and then 1 rem left and right to give some spacing between the pages. And then the cursor, obviously I want it to be a pointer when somebody hovers over the pages. And then I want to remove the text decoration. I don't want that underline. So text decoration, none. And I'm going to save this. And we should see a very nice difference on our pages. And this looks much, much better than it was before. So as you can see, our navigation bar is shaping up slow by slow. And when I hover over the pages, I should see a pointer. So back to the design, what do we want to design next? So this looks nice, But then the one thing that it doesn't cover for is when I hit F12, when I reduce the size of the device, the pages do not collapse into a drop-down menu. So we will fix that. I can just go back to the page for now, and let's go back to the design. So just to change something also, this navbar menu wrapper is going to be the drop-down, and I want to change the color here. When it's in the menu wrapper, you'll see what I mean. Because for now, the text, as you can see here, is a little bit grayish, but on the menu wrapper, or rather on the drop down menu, I want the color to change to white. So I'm already designing this, although I haven't added this class yet. So I'll just have this color to white. So FFF, that is the white color. And the next thing I'm gonna do now is design the button. Back to the component, I'm going to get this class, the nav button. So copy it and dot, and then target the button tag. And then remember, we also have the wrapper. When it's in the drop down, I also want to give it a style. So Control V and target the button. So it should have the same style. And the first thing we're going to give it is just a small padding inside with the text. So 0.5 rem top and bottom, and then 2 rem left and right. And we're also going to give it a color, the color of the text. I'll just go with white again. I want to give it a background color, and I have colors already. Like I said, you can give it any color that you want. And I have my color here. Let me just bring it in, paste it there, and give it a font weight. I'll give it about 500. Also a little bit bold. And font size, I'll keep the same, 18 pixels for the font size. And the line height, I'll give it 25 pixels. Maybe a border radius, I'll give it about 5 pixels. A slight curve on the borders is also nice. And I don't want any borders, so border none. And outline, I don't want any outline on my button, so none. I want the cursor to be a pointer when somebody hovers over the button. So I'll save that and back to my application. There you go. I should see a very nice looking button right now with just a few lines of code, and we've made the button look a lot better than it was looking before. So what else do we want to do now? So the next thing we want to do now is to bring in the navbar menu. For example, when these pages are dropped into the drop down menu, we want to bring in what is going to toggle the drop down menu. Back to the application, we need to add another class in the nav component. So out of the button div, we're going to add here another div, and I'm just going to call it, and this is going to be the nav menu. And in this menu class is where we're going to toggle the drop down menu. So let's just design this a little bit. So back over here, I'll just copy this and come over here. So dot paste that there. And then what do we want to do with this? First thing I want to do is to give it a small margin to the left, 1 rem, and then display is gonna be, initially it's gonna be none. I don't want to show it. And then this position, I just want to give it relative for now. So I'm going to save this, and I shouldn't see anything yet, but we are going to fix it. So we want to bring in some icons. So just head over to Google and search for React icons, and you should open the first one, and this gives you how to use the React icons. So first thing we're going to do is install the React icons using npm. So just copy that command and back to the application, and I'll open another terminal and I'll just paste it here and install it. So once it's finished installing, we're going to use the React state to handle whether to show that button or not to show it. So from the top, I'm just going to bring in use state from React, and down here, I'm just going to say constant, and remember how to use the state. So toggle menu, and then set toggle menu. And initially, this is going to be false. It's coming from use state, but initially it's going to be false. Also from the top, we want to bring in the React icons. So we're just going to import the React icons from something and we give it a name. So on the top, I want to bring in a React icon. So this one, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to import something from React icons, and I want to bring it from RI. This is one of the packages that we have in React icons. So the package I want is RI clause, and I want it with a line. Don't fill it. And the other one I also want is RI menu 3, but I need it in a line like this. So after this importation, how am I going to use it down here in this div? This is going to be logic, so curly braces. Now, how are we going to handle this? So if toggle menu is true and then else, so this is a simple ternary expression. So if the toggle menu is true, what happens? We want to bring in the RI close line, because this means that the menu is going to be visible. So we're going to bring in the close button when the toggle menu is true. So I'll just give it a color, give it a simple color, a bit of gray, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna give it a size. This size is gonna be 27 is good with me. And what happens when I click? So on click, I'll have here a callback function. And when I click on this button, just set toggle menu to false. That means the toggle menu is gonna be false. It won't be visible again. So this just means that if toggle menu is true, that means I want to show this RI close line. So that means the drop down is now appearing, and I want to show the X, the close. So if somebody clicks on the close, it's going to set the toggle menu to false, meaning that the drop down menu is going to disappear. And then when the toggle menu is false, we want to show the lines for toggling the drop down menu. So RI menu 3 line, self closing tag. In here, we're going to do the same thing, give it a color. I'm going to give it the same color, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bit of gray, and the same size also, 27 is good with me. And on click, when you click on this button, what happens? As you must have guessed it, it returns a callback function, and it returns set toggle menu to true, so that we can see the drop down menu. So when I save this, this is the behavior that we want. And you're going to see how we're going to implement all of this shortly. And right at the end now, outside of this, we're going to have another logic here. So this logic is going to be simple. If toggle menu is true, and meaning that I want you now to show this other logic that I have here, meaning that this other logic I'm going to add here will only be visible or will only come in play if toggle menu is true. So the first thing I will do here, I'm going to create a div. So the first div I'm going to have here is going to be the one with the menu wrapper. Remember the one we created, the nav menu wrapper. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to give it a class name, nav menu wrapper. So in this div, what do I want to do in this div? So in this div, I'm going to have two things. One, the links wrapper and the menu button wrapper. So create another div here and I'm going to give it a class name. I'll just copy this and just going to paste it there, but I'll add, this is for the links. And then in this links, I'll just have the same thing. I'll just copy all of this again from here all the way here, and I'll just paste it down here. But then again, we shouldn't have any of this looking like this. I mean, this is not a good programming methodology. We can create one component that we can reuse. So all the way to the top, outside of this component, we can just say constant, this is the menu, but this is a component. So capital M is equal to, doesn't take any parameters. So arrow function, and it's going to return something. What does it return? you must have guessed it returns all these menu items. So copy and paste it here. And I need to put this in a fragment. So fragment here, and I'll just cut this from here and put it down here as another fragment. So when I save this, I should have a menu. So when I come down here, I don't need to put all of this. I can just delete all of this, and all I do is I call the menu self-closing tag. All the way down also, I can also just take all of this out, and all I do is call the menu self-closing tag. So when I save this, I should see the same output in my navigation menu. So this is much simpler to use, and it makes your code a little bit clean. So that's the menu, and I want to create another div. So I'll create another div down here, and as you must have guessed, this is going to be for the button. So again, I'll just copy this, and I'm going to come here and say class name, and I'll paste it there, but this time this is the button. So remember, what we're designing now is the toggle menu. When you click on the drop-down menu to view the drop-down menu, these are the designs that we are going to add here. So this is going to have the same button. So I'll just copy this button, and I'll come down and paste it here. So the button is going to be the same. With that, we are done with the toggle menu. Now we want to start designing this toggle menu and to give it the sizes where we want it to start appearing. Now the next thing we will do is design the nav menu wrapper, this over here. So I'm just gonna copy this and come back to CSS and paste it there. So what designs do we want for the nav menu wrapper? First of all, display again. We're gonna take it to flex and justify content. This time we're gonna take them flex end because we want them to appear on the right of the screen, or rather of the menu. And we're gonna align items. This one is also flex end. And flex direction, this time we're gonna change it, because remember the initial flex direction is a row, but now in this drop down menu, we want it to be in a column. And then text align, we're gonna change it to take it to the end, and we're gonna give it a background. And again, I still have my colors with me, so bring it in there. Give it a padding of about 2 rems, and its position, we're gonna give it absolute, and then give it some margin to the top. About 40 pixels is good for me, and to the right, I'm gonna give it 0. I don't want any spacing on the right, so margin top about 1 rem is good for me, and give it a minimum width of about 210 pixels worked with me, so yours might be different. Also give it a border radius of about 5 pixels, and give it a small box shadow. So I have 0, 0, 0, 5, and a small RGBA. The reds, give it 0, the greens 0, blue 0, but I want an alpha of about 0.2. And when I come back to the application, I should still not see it because the display is at none. And then also in the menu wrapper, I want to target the anchor tags. So just copy that and then paste it down here. So in the paragraph and in the anchor tag, I want to give it another design here. So give it a small margin, top and bottom 1 rem, and left and right 0. And I don't want any text decoration. Here I'll give it none. So save that. And now I also want to bring the button in. So the navbar button, this right here, I'll just copy it and paste it here. So all I'll do is set the display to none. So when I save this, I should still not see anything. Even though I try to toggle this, I should still not see any of those designs because we haven't yet set the screen width and what happens at certain screen widths. So back to the editor, and now we need to start setting our screens. So at media, we're going to target the screen, and we can set a maximum width here. Max width 1050 pixels. So this is a big screen. So on this big screen, I do not want to see the nav wrapper links, this one over here. So I'll just copy this dot and paste it there, and all I'll do is set the display to none. That is for a big screen. And then the nav menu here, remember the nav menu, the one we set. On that big screen, I want to set its display to flex. So dot display is set to flex. And that's it for a 1050 pixel screen. On the next size of screen, and max width 700 pixels. What do we want to do with this? So on this size of screen, I want to change something with this container. So I'll just copy the container and come down. I want to change something with this container here. When the screen gets smaller, I want the container to do something. So when the screen gets smaller, I want you to reduce on the padding of this container. So padding, top and bottom will remain 2 rems, but left and right, reduce it to 4 rems. So when the size of the screen gets even smaller, so at media, screen, and max width, when it's about 550 pixels, we also want to do something here. Now this is a very small screen. So the first thing we want to do is this should stay the same, give it the same margins. So copy that, and then I'm just going to paste it here. And also on this screen size, I don't want to display that button on the menu. So this nav button, I'm going to set its display to none. So copy this, and on the screen size, I just want to set this display to none. And the next thing I want to target is the menu wrapper. So copy all of this and come down, and this wrapper, I just want to give it some margin to some distance at the top, about 20 pixels. That's all I want to do. And then to show the button inside that drop down menu, I'll just come here and target this button. I'll just take this, copy, and over here and paste it there. And all I'll do is set the display to block. So when I save this, let's see what happens in our application. Reload the page. So when I reduce the size of the screen, let's see what happens. And this is appearing, but we're still seeing the pages here. We want to remove these pages. As soon as this comes up, these pages should not be seen. So we did something wrong here. Let's see at this height, at this size of it. Okay, so I see. I targeted the menu links instead of targeting. What I wanted to target is this links wrapper. So I'll just copy this and back to CSS. And when I target this links wrapper, so paste this there and save it. When I come back, try to make it smaller. There you go. That is what we want. So when this reaches 1050 pixels, this menu should not appear. At this width, this menu should not be displayed. So this is the behavior that we want. So, and what happens is, it's going to be displayed inside this drop down that we just created. So when I click on this, it goes away. And when I make the screen bigger, I see the links appearing up here. So when I make it smaller, it should go away and it should be displayed in here. So this is perfect. This is the design that we're trying to do. So what if I make it smaller and okay, this button is still appearing here and yet it should appear inside here. So what is happening? And you see how the toggling also works. So you can get the drop down menu and then we have the X for closing. Then we can also close it. But the hire me button is still appearing up here. We need to fix that. So when we reduce it even further, less than 550, okay, the button is still appearing. So something is going on here. Let's just go back and check maximum. Okay, I missed a T here. So there was a typo. So when I save this, I should see the button disappear. There you go. And there you go. And it appears on the drop down menu. So this is a very good experience for an end user. And as you can see, whichever size of screen that you have, the experience is gonna be amazing for the end user. And as you can see, this is a very good design for a navigation menu. And with this comes to the end of this tutorial. I hope you can start using CSS in React to start designing your navigation menus, and you can make it much more than this if you can, but these are the basics. So with this, I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.